This episode of the GPS DairyCAST is proudly sponsored by Kemin Animal Nutrition and Health. Amino acids don't just boost milk protein, they support better health, reproduction, and profitability. Visit kemin.com/dairy to improve income over feed costs today.
The GPS DairyCAST features the high-value insights of the GPS Dairy Consulting team's trusted advisors and the owners and managers from the elite dairy farms they serve. These conversations deliver on the GPS Dairy Consulting promise to inspire change and grow leaders.
Modern dairy cow diets demand precision with amino acids at the core. Lysine and methionine aren't just essential for milk and milk protein production, they play key roles in cow health, reproduction, and long-term profitability. Backed by 35 years of expertise in rumen-protected technologies, Kemin's Lysogem Extend and Kescent ME deliver the latest in rumen-protected lysine and methionine to support precise diet formulation, improve ROI, and boost overall cow performance. Learn more at kemin.com/dairy. Welcome to the GPS DairyCast. I'm your host, Peggy Coffeen from the Up-Level Dairy Podcast. And if you are looking for ways to optimize team performance on your dairy, you are in the right place because my guest today from the GPS Dairy Consulting team is here to talk about that. Welcome to the GPS DairyCast, Dr. Brady Goetz.
Thanks, Peggy. Glad to be here.
And Brady, you come to us today from South Dakota, and do you want to give us just a little snapshot quick of your background in the dairy industry and also working with dairies in your area and through the capacity of GPS?
Yeah, so a little bit of a unique background. So I did a couple years at community college and then got some real world experience managing in dairy. So I did that for about 3 years in Eastern Iowa. From there, the journey took me to Iowa State, where I obtained my bachelor's degree and then my PhD studying under Dr. Lance Baumgard. And so during that process as well, was able to manage some undergrads and some research trials, so got a little bit more leadership experience. Been on the GPS team for a little over 2 years now, consulting mainly in the I-29 in Southwest Kansas, where I work with large progressive dairy farms.
So Brady, you have this unique combination of on-farm dairy management experience, and then we add on top of that the research experience. But there's one more thing you mentioned there, and that was working with team and leadership through your graduate studies as well. And so you've had this stack of a journey that has brought us to the topic that we're at today when we talk about leadership and building those skills within managers so we can have those strong teams on the dairies. And as you mentioned, you work with several progressive dairies in that region that you're at. Talk for a moment about what you have seen on the dairies you work with. Why does leadership matter now more than ever?
The more I get into it and working with these clients, feed is very important, right? We know that. We know that we need to have high quality forages. We know that genetics matter. We need to get push cows to their genetic potential. And we know facilities matter as well. We need to do our best job to make sure that we got the right environment for animals. And all of those things are really important. But it really comes down to the people that are working with the cows and the skills that they need to strive in their roles and what that takes, and having effective leadership. And that comes from the owners on the dairy to the top level managers on the dairy to the mid-level managers on the dairy. Leadership is key for all of that. I've had a lot of chances to work with a lot of different farms and a lot of different environments, and everyone is different. What I do on one dairy might be different, or what I see on another dairy might be different. And so trying to coach that leadership and evolve that leadership is really, really important, I found. And these aren't corporate retreats that we're trying to do like we do see in the real world side of it or on the corporate side of it type things. These are just practical, hands-on farm ways that we can get people together to get them working together. And most of it is trying to make sure we have that effective communication throughout all stages, whether it's the person milking cows to pushing cows to the feeder on the dairy. All of us have to be in communication, and there has to be some type of leadership role in place there to empower people, to keep people engaged, and to keep these teams functioning at a high level. Because as we know, dairy farms are 365, 24/7. And so we have to have all the people in place and processes in place to make sure that we're doing the best job that we can for these cows.
And Brady, we'll get to in a few moments here some examples of how you're able to work with your clients to develop those skills of leadership and communication through each layer of management on the dairy. But could you just step back for a moment and paint a picture of when you walk onto a dairy, and what do you see when you're able to know that they have a well-oiled machine for a team? High performance, good communication. When you walk on, what are the signals that you see that tell you that this dairy has got it going on when it comes to team building and leadership?
There's times where you walk on the farm, and I might be in the office with one of the managers or the owner, and it's 1:15 in the afternoon, and I say, I wonder what pen's going to the parlor right now. And they're like, oh, it's pen 6. They should be dropping feed here in about 15 minutes. And you walk out to the barn, and pen 6 is at the parlor, and feed's dropped at 1:30. It's just that well-oiled machine that everybody's role, everybody's team is engaged, and they know when they got to be there. And it's that consistency is key. We know that, and cows strive on consistency. If it could be the same every single day. And the high functioning teams that I see are the dairies are calm. This person knows what he's doing to get to the next task, and that person knows that that person's going to get that task done. There's no kind of the blame game going back and forth. It's just a well-oiled machine when you walk on. You can just walk in, and you could do this today. You could do it next Friday. You could do it next Tuesday, and it's the same thing. That consistency is there across the whole board.
So you mentioned the word consistency several times here. Let's flip over to the contrasting scenario. When you walk on a dairy, what are the red flags that pop up to you right off the bat if there is an issue within team communication and that streamlining of consistency?
I don't always look at that as an issue. I just look at it as an opportunity. What can we do better? So some of those dairies, you'll walk on and it just seems like it's a little bit more chaotic, and this person's running to go do that. And I better call this person to ask this question. And what do I do in this situation? Let me ask him or her on this. And it just seems like there's a little bit more chaos involved. There's just a little bit more high energy. You walk on, and I'm just starting to get a little nervous as well, and just trying to make sure that what is the problem, or what are we trying to do right now, and what is the next step to get that accomplished. And it just seems like there might be just a little bit more chaos involved with some of those decisions. Or it comes down to, I can't find the person that I'm looking for, and I need to really ask this question. And so then I ask, what is your question? And it's a pretty easy question to answer that even I can answer, but the employee just doesn't feel like they have the power to make that decision. And that's where some of that leadership comes into play. And we just need to let everybody, empower their own role and really take ownership of what role they're doing, and making sure that they have the skills and the tools that they need to make sure their job is getting done effectively.
And so as you lay out these scenarios, the well-oiled machine versus the one that needs some fine tuning in the teamwork department, Brady, what really jumps out to you as the critical steps to take in going from a clunky system to that well-oiled machine?
I think one of the first steps in that is defining roles. What is this manager's role, or this person's role on the farm? What skills and what tools do they need to do their job effectively? And making sure everybody's aware of that. So my job as a pusher is to get cows out of the stalls and get them up to the parlor and get the barn clean and put sand in the stalls maybe. What tools do I need for that? Do I have the training behind that so I'm prepared to do that? And then a manager's role. Maybe it's a parlor manager where they're in charge of everybody in the parlor as well as the pushers. What do they need to make sure that their team is functioning at a high level? Do they have the people in place that have the training behind them? And if not, what does that person need to do as the manager to train them to get to that next level? Same thing can be said on the feed side of it. Who's pushing up feed? Who's doing the feeding? Do we have timeliness on that? And one of the biggest things on a dairy that I think is often overlooked a little bit is we've got a mix of skill sets, right? We've got somebody in the parlor. We've got somebody in the feed. We got somebody doing animal health. We have somebody doing foot health maybe. So it's just a complex set of skills that we have, and they're all intertwined. And so we all have to work together to be successful. So when it comes to the parlor, maybe the feed team's got to be a little bit delayed from that. Or are we communicating on that side of it? So communication really becomes key in that, and making sure that everybody has the tools and the skills that they need to succeed at their job and their role.
Delivering amino acids where the cow needs them most makes all the difference. That's why Kemin developed Lysogem Extend and Kescent ME, highly concentrated bioavailable lysine and methionine, protected by a proprietary encapsulation process that ensures release in the small intestine where they can be absorbed and utilized. Backed by over 35 years of expertise in rumen-protected technologies, Kemin helps improve income over feed costs and overall herd performance. Visit kemin.com/dairy to see how precision delivery drives profitability. And you really broke that down well, Brady, and how you explained what that defining roles looks like as far as knowing whose job is what, but also as you talked about going a little bit further than that and saying, okay, not just what is your role, do you have what you need to complete your task? And also, do you have the training that you need? So tools and training to do the job. And then that communication of everyone else knowing that their colleagues have what they need, know their role. And would you say those are the key ingredients to take that chaotic situation to a place of calm and clarity?
Yeah, definitely. It's the communication and making sure everybody's on the same page, I think really comes into play there. Oftentimes I'll see somebody who has their role defined and they know what they're doing and they have the skills and they have the resources they need to do their job effectively. But then somebody else comes along and doesn't quite know what their role is, and they think they should be doing something else along with that role. And then there gets to be a little tension or a little frustration of, I don't know why this person's not doing this job that they're supposed to be doing. Well, maybe that person doesn't know they're supposed to be doing that job, or that's not in their job description or what they're supposed to be doing. And so that's where it gets to be a little more chaotic and a little bit more tension of, we know what we have to get done in a day's time, and it's making sure that everybody's knows that what they're supposed to be doing and how they're supposed to be doing it. And it's not necessarily that blame game. I often see that a little bit, and we're not trying to be out to get somebody. We just don't want to be at fault for something going wrong. So we just pass the blame to somebody else, when that communication really becomes in key of, hey, how come this isn't getting done? And it's because, I didn't have time today, or what the story might be. So instead of just getting frustrated or angry, we just got to have that communication of, okay, what do we need to do to make sure this gets accomplished and make sure everybody's on that same page.
So Brady, as you're illustrating these scenarios, these are very real life situations. And I have a good feeling that there are dairy producers, owners, and managers that are listening to what you've just described and saying, that is where I'm at right now. That is me. That is my dairy. That is a challenge that I'm facing. And so let's get to the solution side. You have a few activities that you do and that you bring to your dairies to really help usher that communication that leads to that high-performing, well-oiled team. So what do you do? Where do you start in making it all happen?
It's different for every dairy. So some dairies where I'm just meeting with the owners or the managers or the key people in place and then sharing what I saw that day or what we need to accomplish on our next task. And they're the ones who relay that information. Then I have a couple other clients where we'll do our full day visit. And then at the end of the day, we all sit down in a room. And by all of us, I mean, this is the manager of the farm, the manager of maternity, the manager of the calves, the manager of heifers, the manager of all of these different areas. There's 8 to 10 of us in the room there. And the whole point of that is again, going to that cross leadership and cross awareness of what's going on in calves that's going to affect me in the yard coming forward here, as well as maybe in the parlor in a couple of years, maybe even, right? And so it's to recap the day that we had. But along with that, we learned really early on that, man, everybody just is so engaged in that and they just want to get better. One of the most frustrating things that they told me early on was, we don't want you to come in and say, you're doing a great job and pat me on the back and say, I'll be back next week or next month type thing on my next visit. These managers really don't want to hear that. They want to know what is wrong, what can we fix today, and what's going to get us to the next level for tomorrow. And it's not always you're doing this bad or this bad. It's, how do I challenge you to get to that next level? What can I do to help you get to the next level of your management journey on that? So a couple examples of what I've done on farm or what we've done on farm is, one of them is, I call it the 1 degree challenge. So this comes from, if you think about a boat sailing across a large body of water, and it's got to go from point A to point B in a straight line. And if that boat goes off even just 1 degree, and that's got to go 100 miles, by the time it gets to that 100th mile after that 1 degree, it is nowhere near the endpoint of where it was supposed to be. So just a 1 degree makes a big change over a long period of time. So how that challenge really works is, what's one thing today that you can change that'll be better for tomorrow? And you might not see that result in a week, even a month. It's maybe a little bit better than what you've done. But what about in 3 months, in 6 months, in a year? That one thing that you changed, and how far have you come because of that one thing? Maybe it's, I'm going to go out of my way to every morning say good morning to all the employees that work work in my department type thing. Or maybe it's, I really need to work on fly control in my area. And if I do that now, what's that going to mean in terms of mastitis rates or cow comfort? Or maybe it's on the calf side of it, we're going to do a better job at making sure that we got fresh, clean water in front of everybody at all times. So it's one of those little things that it's a task that we think we know we should be doing, but this is, you know what, I'm going to do that one small change today and see what that can turn into for tomorrow, in 3 months, in 6 months. And it's amazing to see when you start doing that. And when we did this, I challenged everybody, and I've got to follow up here in a couple months on that. I said, I got 4 months and I'm going to follow up on what we talked about here. But it just gets the wheels turning a little bit and gets you just thinking about, what can I do differently for next time?
So that you call the 1 degree challenge, identifying that one thing that can be done to move the needle. What else do you have in your toolbox?
Yeah, so another one that is really good if you have, so early on, or if you're got a little more quiet group that doesn't want to be outspoken or speak up of what's going on. And this one works really well if you have multiple different areas in the farm, but it also can be for one department as well. But it's a sticky note problem solving type scenario where everybody just writes down today something that's going on. What's an issue that you're facing right now? So in maternity, it might be, man, we just got a heavy flux of calving right now. On the calf side of it, man, weather's just been tough for us right now. On heifers, it might be, we've got a little pink eye challenge going on, or whatever that might be in that case. And so everybody writes down their own problem. You can call it anonymous if you want, or if you want to put names on them. And then after that, we collect them and we write them on a whiteboard, or we write down the issues from everybody on there. And then it's the whole team effort to say, okay, maternity person is struggling with heavy calving flux right now. What can we all do from our perspectives? Or maybe we've been tasked or challenged with something like that in the past. And what has helped us to get through that? And it might be on the calf side of it or somewhere else, but it's a different perspective, and it's getting everybody involved to know, okay, this is what this person's dealing with. This is what I'm dealing with. And it gets us all talking back and forth and getting different perspectives on what it might be to overcome that problem or that challenge that we're facing on farms. And that one really is impactful. And the amount of people that might not say much in a meeting, and then by the end of it, we got to cut this off because we're talking too much here, is a really good problem to have. And I've seen that multiple times.
So you've really seen the sticking out problem solving challenges. It's more than just identifying a problem and solution, but it's truly opening up the dialogue, opening up the floor for communication and for hearing perhaps from people that don't always speak up in meetings or tend to be a little bit quieter. Do you see this as an exercise that just really helps to warm up the team at the same time?
Yeah, absolutely. So the one main goal for me when I do these is I'm the facilitator. I'll keep the discussion going a little bit, but it's all internal on that if we can, and just get that dialogue going and get everybody out of their shell a little bit, loosen up a little bit. And you might say, my problem's not that big and it's not really that much of a problem, or man, I really want to talk to somebody about this, but I just haven't found a way to bring that up. And this is a really easy, low barrier to entry type conversation that we can start with. And it just really seems to open people up and everybody gets talking, and it really, really works to kind of take down those walls and take down those barriers.
So that was number 2 of the solutions that you would offer to dairies for helping with opening up that communication, building stronger teams. We talked about the 1 degree challenge. We talked about the sticky note activity. Do you have one more in your toolbox that you can share with us today?
I do. I have one more. It's kind of the chain reaction, or kind of the weakest link analogy. So on every farm, like we talked about before, there's feeding, there's herd health, there's repro, there's the parlor, and all of them depend on each other. And so if one area is weak, then the whole area is weak. And the whole point of this is it just helps managers and everybody think, again, beyond their own area and what's going on elsewhere. They start to see how their decisions really affect the whole system. And another kind of part of this, or another point of this, and right now as we're recording this, is the beginning of corn silage time for dairies. And when it comes to that, everybody gets involved when it comes to covering the pile or helping with corn silage in some way, shape, or form, or somebody's job gets constrained a little bit because there's traffic or there's just a lot more chaos going around on a farm. And maybe the person that you're trying to get a hold of is not around. And so your team really needs to shine during that time and take leadership and ownership of their roles. And one thing that I talk about a little bit with corn silage is we have a week to 2 weeks to 3 weeks on some farms to get this right for the whole year. And so it really takes that whole team aspect there. And we don't want to have one weak link in that chain that could break. And now we've got chaos across the whole farm. It's trying to make sure we don't have that weakest link when it comes to our biggest times there. And then with that corn silage, the whole team gets involved on covering the pile usually. And if we do that right and we do a good job with that, it affects the whole farm in terms of feeding and health and repro and milk and the parlor. If we do a good job of everybody working together on that one simple task, I know it's not a simple task, it's a hard task, but it's a very, very important task. And it's just kind of showing that the importance of why we're doing what we're doing, I think, on different areas of the farm really becomes impactful for everybody on the farm and on the team. And then it's a high stress job and it's not a fun job, but how do you make it fun? We've got to enjoy this a little bit if we can. And so it's trying to make sure that we can make that as fun of a time as we can.
GPS Dairy Consulting is proud to highlight their sister company, Agri-Growth Solutions. AGS is a team of financial consultants with strong dairy backgrounds who represent and work for the best interests of dairy producers. The AGS team works independently for the dairy producer to guide them through their business's financial position and planning for their continued and future success. Partial budgeting and asset management modeling, along with key performance indicator scorecards, are the future of dairy financial tracking and management, and AGS leads the industry in these service offerings. Agri-Growth Solutions provides leadership, experience, and solutions to ensure their clients' financial success. Learn more at agrigrowthsolutions.com. So you've talked about these activities that you're able to do on the spot with teams to help them improve their communication, set up for some of the biggest challenges like a game time right now, go time with silage season. But in order for these efforts to truly be successful long term, what must happen after the activity is done? What must happen after the meeting for continual improvement and progress?
Yeah, so a big one there is just follow through. We can talk about it all we want and we can shut that door behind us and employees just say, that sounds great, but I'm not going to do it. I don't want to engage in that. And so how do you keep that engagement? And that's where the excitement, the enthusiasm has to come from everybody, and everybody kind of has to have that buy-in on that end, and then not necessarily even buy-in, but just we got to push on that, or let's talk about it. Let's bring it back up, whether it's in a month or two or three, or maybe it's between visits. The other managers are, what was your challenge, that your 1 degree change that you're going to make today? Or what area do you think is the weakest that we could work on a little bit? And how do you propose helping that? And when it comes to the sticky note one, that one identifies a lot of problems that you might not have even known about on the farm. And so that gives us areas that we all need to work together on, and from the owners and managers that might not have seen that, of this wasn't even an area that we were aware of as an issue. And now we've got that door open to say, we really got to focus and hone in on this a little bit and see what that can change for us on the farm.
And Brady, for you, what's your role? What's the role that you play in leading these activities, providing that follow-up? Where do you come in, being, as you mentioned, a facilitator, but where do you come in the follow-up process after that?
For me, it always comes back down to the GPS promise. Our promise, and our brand promise, is to inspire change and grow leaders. So for me, it's challenging these teams to think outside the box, to look at things a little bit differently, and how does that helping them understand the big impact of that change. If you do this little thing today, in 6 months it's going to mean this, in a year it's going to mean this. And sometimes it's like, I don't believe you. And it's my job to help push and show that and to keep on everybody and just keep that enthusiasm around that a little bit and help facilitate some of those conversations, as well as going back to the skills that everybody needs and to the what they need to do better at their job, resources they might need. And maybe I got to help provide some of those. Maybe it's some parlor trainings that we can bring in or some feeder trainings that can help get us to that next level and give folks more ownership in their role and more pride in what they're doing and help them just get to that next level of their job. And that's where I come in to help bring that to the next level if it's necessary in some scenarios.
And Brady, as we come to our close, is there anything else that we didn't cover that you want to make sure we add in this conversation?
Yeah, so the couple things that just stand out are, when it comes to these activities, they don't have to be well thought out, scripted. I've got pages I'm handing out and here's a packet. These are just 15 to 30 minute quick little exercises we can do once a week, or maybe it's twice a month, whatever it might be. And if we can tie those results back to something measurable or actionable, it really just helps say, man, we focused on that and look at what happened. This is the result of that. People gravitate towards that, and then celebrate the small wins. We do a lot on dairies, and yeah, we celebrate the big wins there. It's Christmas and we're going to throw a party, and corn silage, we might do a pizza party after we do that or something, whatever that might be. But sometimes maybe let's celebrate these small wins as well. Hey, we really wanted to focus on making sure that we've got bedding in the stalls and we're doing a good job there. And look at our somatic cells gone down 10 to 20 points. And man, let's celebrate that. That's a win for everybody. That's everybody involved. It's the stall cleaners or the pushers that are doing that, but it's the milkers as well. It's the feeders for getting feed on time. It's everybody's involved in that. And so let's celebrate that. Don't be afraid to celebrate the small victories.
So would you say that is the fourth tool that solidifies the toolbox? And that is after you've done these activities, gone through the exercises, done the work, and after you've sat down with these dairies and their team members and looked at their accountability and the progress that they've made, taking that moment to just, as you said, celebrate those wins, no matter how big or small. And when you do that, do you sometimes see that creates a momentum for the next effort towards the next win?
Absolutely, 100%. So some of these dairies where I've seen this become really successful, where there is buy-in from everybody, and they see that first win, and now they're like, well, what else can we do to get better for the next thing? And again, it comes back to, they don't want the pat on the back of what we're doing well. It's, how can you challenge me to get better for the next thing? Okay, what's our next task? And it's almost a sense of urgency or kind of passion, desire, almost just you lit the fire under there, and now we've got to just get going a little bit. And I'd encourage everybody to try a couple of these examples on farm and see the successes that can come out from some of those.
So that's the challenge that you're putting out to listeners today, is to take some of these activities and exercises, whether it's the 1 degree challenge, the sticky note problem solving exercise, or looking at that weakest link activity, and to just give it a try. Follow up with some accountability and a little celebration to seal the deal. And with that, Brady, is there anything else that you'd like to add to this conversation on building up leadership and teams on dairies?
The last thing I'll leave with is not only are these successful on farm, but as I was talking through some of these challenges with my wife, she says, so what's your 1 degree challenge going to be at home? And so not only can you do these on farm, but you can also take these home in your personal life and maybe do a little better of putting dishes in the dishwasher or whatever that might be.
So it sounds like you have a great accountability partner.
Yes, I do. Absolutely.
Excellent. Well, Brady, thank you for sharing your skill set, your experience, and the same knowledge that you take out to the dairies that you serve here today in the GPS DairyCAST.
Thank you.
And for anyone that's looking for ways to build their teams, we'll have the contact information for Brady and the GPS Dairy Consulting team in the show notes. And I'm Peggy Coffeen from Up Level Dairy Podcast, hosting you today on this GPS DairyCast. And until next time, keep on inspiring change and growing leaders on your dairies.
The GPS DairyCAST features conversations that deliver on the GPS Dairy Consulting promise to inspire change and grow leaders. If this GPS DairyCAST has you looking for more ways to become an elite dairy producer, find more information in our show notes on how you can add a GPS advisor to your team.
Modern dairy cow diets demand precision with amino acids at the core. Lysine and methionine aren't just essential for milk and milk protein production, they play key roles in cow health, reproduction, and long-term profitability. Backed by 35 years of expertise in rumen-protected technologies, Kemen's Lysogem Extend and Kescent ME deliver the latest in rumen-protected lysine and methionine to support precise diet formulation, improve ROI, and boost overall cow performance. Learn more at kemen.com/dairy.